I'm gonna be honest, theorizing about Cassie isn't that much fun anymore, and it's only been one day. I'm already burnt out because of the amount of dooming going around on Cassie and other characters because of it finally being confirmed Cyrene will work with her, right? So I wanted to escape the Cassie brain rot a bit. I took like an hour or 2 hours off of when I should have made this second video because my head hurt from thinking about it, but now I'm back. I want to talk about Dan Heng, right? His new sustained form. What do I think about him? So Dan Heng is actually like pretty solid, right? Now from early calcs like E0S1 Dan Heng, E1S0 Dan Heng, he is actually competitive with sustainless Phenon, right? Now, depending on what you run sustainless with, it may not be what you think it is, right? For, reference, these calcs use Sunday and Saridra in a Phenon team, and the 4 slot is open. And apparently E1S0, like Dan Heng, is right there, like damn near the same level as sustainless with Branya, Saridra, and Sunday, right? Now, in my opinion, this is actually really good because you need to remember Dan Heng is supposed to be free. So if you put one costume into his E1, you can now transform his sustainless performance into sustain, right? Now, if you want to keep running sustainless, you can just ignore Dan Heng and you can put vertical investment somewhere else, of course, right? However, do note that if you were to technically put one limited cost into Dan Heng alongside the free copy we get of him for E1, then Dan Heng becomes basically on the exact same level as sustainless Phenon with Sunday, Saridra, and Branya, right? So that's his value for Phenon. It is actually pretty noticeable, although it doesn't make him surpass his already, current value, right? And if you want to know E0S0 Dan Heng, I believe it's like, I believe it's like 15% weaker compared to using Branya, right? So that's E0S0 Dan Heng. It is obviously weaker than sustainless. However, even then, the drop-off isn't anywhere near as bad as it used to be, and sustained Phenon is like no longer cope, right? So he also seems just generally good for other teams, right? If we don't even talk about his buffing, this guy has the fattest shields in the entire game. I'm watching this guy in like Flame Reaver showcases and other boss showcases. Every single character has max shield 24/7 around their health. Like, holy fuck. This guy's sustaining is not an issue in the slightest. In fact, it's probably his strongest point outside of enabling better Sunday synergy for a lot of teams, right? His sustain capability is absolutely no joke. It is incredibly fucking strong, right? Now that I've like glazed him a little bit, let me just mention the flaws. His damage output is trash, right? His damage output is for sure no Hyacine. However, it is still there, but it's much more reliant on full AoE scenarios, right? So they kind of, do this weird thing. I believe Dan Heng's E2, I think, gives 2 more uses of the dragon. For those who don't know, when you use Dan Heng's ult, basically you get 2 free dragon attacks, right? And you can't refresh these dragon attacks, I believe, until your next ultimate. So E2 adds another 2, so you get 4 dragon attacks every single ult. Now, in most cases, you probably wouldn't want to go for this E2, but in one case specifically, this E2 is actually solid. 1, for Pure Fiction with Phenon or Anoxa, right? So Anoxa getting 4 attacks from the dragon, and because it does scale off of like how many enemies are on field, it actually does sizable amounts of damage in Pure Fiction, especially when you have like buffs going up, right? So Anoxa and Phenon can 100% enjoy those extra dragon attacks in Pure Fiction because they can't get attacks anywhere else for free, right? So that is 100% something to consider with his E2. However, outside of this, I wouldn't really recommend it. And the only vertical investment I'd really recommend for Dan Heng is actually his E1. For those who don't know, E1 basically is 15% res pen, right? 15% res pen on a sustain E1, incredibly general, very powerful, and this will probably be the difference for a lot of teams of making sustain translate to sustainless, right? As I mentioned earlier, for Phenon specifically, using Dan Heng E1 is basically on the exact same tier as sustainless with Bronya. Now, for other teams, it won't be as good as Phenon, because Phenon has a trace in his kit that gives him 45% damage bonus for running with a sustain that other characters don't have, right? But still gives amazing sustain performance if that's something you're looking for with pure comfortability and not having to worry about min-maxing relics to hit sustainless runs. I think Dan Heng is actually in a really solid spot, but I do think he could maybe get more attack instances, or he could get more overall damage output, or make his damage output bounce, right? I think that could also massively help what's going on with his damage, because in like single target it just drops off a cliff and it's basically useless, right? His dragon attacks really only matter when you are in pure fiction or full AoE scenarios, and that's it. So his damage output is much more of an afterthought, and his sustain capability plus, you know, activating Sunday's plus 50% damage boost seems to be much more in Hoyo's mind. I think something they could do to buff him is let me think real quick. I think they could put his res pen in base kit and change the E1 to defense shred, right? That's my opinion. Yeah, I think that's my opinion off the top of my head. I think if they added the res pen to his base kit, it would be perfect, because now Phenon can perfectly translate sustainless performance into sustain. And then if you want to go beyond this, you can pull Dan Heng's E1 for defense shred, and this obviously synergizes with Phenon's light cone, it synergizes with Sunday E1, it synergizes with Saridra E1, right? And this way you're able to surpass for one cost what Phenon sustainless can do, right? So that's my opinion. I think I'd like to see Dan Heng's E1 be added to base kit, and I think after that, that's it, right? I think that's truly it. Obviously, they can go different directions to buff Dan Heng to make him even better for Phenon, and like other characters as well. But I think adding that 15% res pen, like not only for Phenon, because this guy is probably going to be used as a sustain for anyone using Sunday, and obviously other people would be able to benefit from this as well and get closer to that, you know, sustainless and sustain performance. And then if you pull E1 Dan Heng, let's say, right, then even outside of Phenon teams, you'll be able to translate sustainless into sustain, right? And I think this will incentivize more people to pull his Eidolons. They make more money, we win, and there's a bit of better balance. And I think that's what they should do. I don't think his damage needs to be buffed, although I would appreciate it. I would much prefer his E1 being added to base kit. And once again, this guy's shields are fucking fat, okay? You will never take damage with this guy on your team from what I've seen. His ability to sustain is absolutely disgusting, right? So those are my quick thoughts on Terravox. I saw a lot of people doom posting this guy before I watched any of his gameplay, so I thought he would be much worse, but people are really like over exaggerating this guy and like how bad he is. He doesn't do this, he doesn't do that. He is really solid, and he is much more general than, let's say, Hyacinth, right? Like, yes, I know Hyacinth is strong, Hyacinth wheelchair comp, this and that. I agree, right? However, Dan Heng helps buff the main DPS of the team more than compared to Hyacinth, who really only does damage, right? That's the difference between Dan Heng and Hyacinth. Dan Heng is much more general for more DPSs and enables 50% damage boost plus his own attack buff to a main DPS, while Hyacine doesn't really buff anyone outside of HP scaling teams, but she does have a notable damage output, right? But I think Dan Heng actually kind of wins in this situation. So let me know what you guys think. Have you guys seen gameplays? Are you going to pull Eidolons or Lycone for Dan Heng? I am probably not. I don't know, right? I'm for sure going to have to consider this, because I do want to pull Cyrene for my day. Once, you know, her beta is less than a patch away. We're really close. So if she works well with my day, I'd like to do that for my day. And then I can just move on into saving for Yai Sakura in version 4, right? My Inoxa account, maybe that one will use Dan Heng, right? But I still don't think I'll consider vertical investment, mostly because it's been leaked. Actually, I should add this into the video. It's been leaked that the 2 reran characters in 3.6 are going to be Castoris and Inoxa, right? So as you all know, my E4 Inoxa account, I've been really wanting to get his E6, so I can't afford Dan Heng vertical investment when Inoxa E6 is closer and much higher value for me. So if I do get Dan Heng vertical investment, it would be in the future, though I'm not really considering it as of now, right? And then my Cassie comp, you know what it is. I'm already fucking stretching it thin, because Evernight, as well as Cyrene, both of these are back-to-back. Both are looking to be best in slot for Cassie. I don't know, man. Cassie is really fucking stretching me thin. But yeah, let me know how your guys' polling plans are. Let me know what you guys are gonna do. Love you all. Thanks for watching the video, and peace out.